Hi everyone. So I'm parked here at the gym in front of Planet Fitness, about to get my $15 a month swole on. And then I go to check Twitter because I'm still digesting the turkey dinner I just had. And then, damn, I see that Rob from Comics Explain is throwing some like serious shade at me. I was shocked. I was shocked for a couple reasons. Number one, Rob seems like the nicest guy ever, so I didn't really think he was the guy to like throw shade. Number two, I didn't think he'd throw shade at me. I actually think, I've complimented his channel numerous times, pretty much at least a couple times a week. I've checked out, especially when I first started out, I was looking at other comics YouTubers, trying to learn, trying to get better, and him, Captain Cummings, Comicstorian, Doug Ernst, I Love Comics / Englentine, Micah Curtis, Aiden Paladin. I looked at all of them, even Comic Book Cast too. I looked at them, try to learn things, what things that, commonalities. I think my learning phase worked pretty good because my channel had a big spike, and it's continued with some pretty excellent growth. And because I kind of looked at trends, what's popular, what's not. Also, what is there that's not being covered already. So, Rob's channel is one of those ones where, quite honestly, I've never actually finished one of his videos, but I've watched him to kind of get a gauge of his audience and his style and everything. And I always look at it like this. Rob's stuff is for entry-level and re-entry level people, and I think that's great. That's why, even though I don't really like his stuff, not that I think it's bad, it's just not my style. I like stuff like Captain Cummings. I like Comic Book Girl 19, the way her channel used to be. I like Red Letter Media. I like when people discuss something they like, but they do it with some humor. So Rob's thing is he's very straightforward. He's like like a grade school teacher. He's like, hey kids, do you want to know about George Washington and Spider-Man? So his stuff is very straightforward. So I don't really get a lot out of it, since either I already know the broad strokes, or I'm not really interested in like 12 minutes of finding out like all the different versions of Apocalypse. But I hear a lot of people say, hey, we like both y'all's stuff, and honestly, I see Rob and me doing very, very similar things, in that we're both trying to like grow a community, probably get it back to a size we used to be. Rob's doing it kind of like a cool older, I'm calling him cool even though he just called me crazy, but like a cool cousin who you go visit him and you're like, hey, I like Green Lantern. I didn't know there was more than one Green Lantern. And he's like, check it out, let me tell you all about the Green Lantern Corps. That stuff's really great. He's kind of like a Wikipedia, a school teacher. The way I put it is, he's like when you get a new job and that HR person or whoever's supposed to show you around, and they just tell you everything positive. Hey, so great you got hired here. Everything's great. Here's our lunchroom. Here's the bathroom. We have, casual Fridays. And he's telling you, and he's really pumping you up. He gets you very excited about the new job. I'm that dude who sits at the cubicle next to you and says, watch out for this girl, she a hoe. Watch out for that guy, he's a straight up asshole. Okay, that toilet in the bathroom upstairs always overflows all the time. So you want to use the one over by the guard shack. He's gonna welcome you in. I'm gonna tell you, the good bathroom, the good drinking fountain, which soda machine will take your change, which one sometimes gives you 2 for free. So I see our stuff as very complimentary. So some people are saying like, oh man, don't start a war with them, because I do little wars. I'm like in an ongoing like ground war with this guy Kwanzaa, but it's kind of like, honestly, I kind of think it's good natured. Like, he roasts me, I roast him. He doesn't block me, I don't follow him. It's just regular guy stuff, hitting it back and forth. It's just roasting. It's the dozens. It's clapbacks. It's all that stuff. So people are saying like, oh, don't get in a war with Comics Explain. I'm like, I don't really want to. I'm kind of like disappointed and surprised. But I'm just kind of ignore it. Like when I first started, I had a little thing with Comic Book Cast 2, and then I watched one of his videos when he was trying to tone it down, so people like guys like me would roast him. And I even said, I go, hey, I feel bad. The guy is exaggerating, but he's exaggerating something he actually believes. So it's not like a complete fabrication. So I don't know why Rob's saying this stuff about me. My general impression is that he's repeating stuff that other people have said. I've got a good amount of contacts and insiders. By the way, I got hit up by one like long time comics artist, and it was one of those things when I saw the email, my heart skipped a beat. It just basically said, "Hey, I really like your stuff. Don't share my name. Yeah, blacklisting is real, but keep throwing that salt out there." So I was like, "Yeah, boy, I love that." I mean, seriously, even though I roast a lot of people, comic pros, at least the good ones, to me, they're like celebrities. To me, the only celebrities are Grumpy Cat and Gavin McInnes and comic pros. But yeah, so I don't really get it. I'm not really gonna do a roast war on Comics Explained, Rob. I just feel like me and him are like, we're athletes in totally different sports. Like, we're never gonna be on the same field. We do totally different things. But we're both doing also complementary things of trying to get people into comics, trying to get people to stay in comics, trying to get people to enjoy comics and like join the community, grow it. Like I said, I want comics back at 500,000 people. The top book in the industry at any one time should be selling 500,000, just like in the 80s and 90s. So that's what I'm going for. Oh, and man. Okay, so yeah, some people don't want, some people, because of like of doxers and stuff, they don't want my name out there. So a guy made me this logo, which I love. I'm gonna start using, and but I asked him if he wanted me to put his name, and I haven't heard back yet. So I'm gonna assume it's a no until I hear yes. But this is like the Diversity in Comics logo. I love it. As the guy said, he said it's made out of ripped up letters because you rip comics. I was like, all right, cool. I like this. I feel real honored. I asked him for how much he wanted to get paid for it. He said, just it's a gift from a fan. So I was like, all right, cool. So anyway, thanks for watching. This is just like a little mini video. Oh, and if you're a professional or I mean, I like hearing from everyone, but especially if you're a pro that listens to my stuff, I hear pros, they're like, oh, I listen to you while I'm drawing, or they say, hey, I'm about to start drawing all night. Throw out some videos. So it's like, just send me an email. It's fun. It's fun to know. Although I might have to be kind of cagey. I might have to read your book and throw some extra shade on you just to throw it off. Yeah, that's right. Me and Chip Zdarsky are best friends there. Fine. I admitted it. I love that guy. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm watching The Defenders, episode 4. It's good. I said before I was going to stop reviewing The Defenders each episode, but one thing I noticed that was funny is that the initial, whenever I do something like non-standard, like I do Marvel before SJW, or I do like comics or TV, like the first day the clicks aren't really that great, the views aren't that great, but they'll be good or better the second or third day. I think a lot of it's where people look at it, they go, I'll pass right now. And then 12 hours later, they're like, yeah, I'm awake at 2 a.m. I will watch your Defenders episode 3 video. So I got a threshold for what I consider to be failure, and that's under 5,000 views. So if I can keep hitting 5,000 in a day or two with these Defenders reviews, I'll keep doing them. Because, man, this episode 4 is great. I started on it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Hit notifications. Check out the Patreon, and I'll have that Defenders review up later tonight. Bye, everyone. So I just finished up with my awesome workout at Planet Fitness. everyone's hating on me for working out for $15. Oh, actually, it's not $15 a month. It's like $19.99. I got the black membership. No big deal. Basically, I'm freaking top dollar dude, spending that extra $4.99 for something. I don't know. I got a t-shirt. I didn't get a towel. But anyway, I was watching The Defenders episode 4 and doing triceps, and man, This episode was excellent. I thought episode 1 was trash. Episode 2 is okay. 3 was really good, and then people told me it was like, don't get cocky. That's the high water mark. And episode 4 was amazing. So episode 4 was pretty original. It was basically, the whole thing mostly takes place in a Chinese restaurant after hours that the defenders basically just bum rush in and take over, and then we get basically like a little one-act play. There's a lot of reasons for doing stuff like this. One of them is they're trying to balance the budget. TV shows, if you ever get into a show, I especially used to notice this when I would watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars. If you have one episode where there's a huge giant fight with tons of people and tons of vehicles and all that kind of stuff, you just know that the next episode is all going to take place in the Senate, because you got to balance that stuff out. Tons of action, tons of sets, tons of effects in one episode means everyone just sitting in a broom closet in the next one. But this one was really great because we got to see this. I really like this show because they seem to be flipping all expectations. Usually it would take almost the entire season to get the team together and fighting together and have them all working as one, fighting the bad guys. They did that in episode 3, and it came very suddenly. Like, okay, they're doing this. And then the next one is where they actually all talk and meet. They kind of just all were kind of coincidentally fighting near each other and really didn't know each other very well. But now they're getting to know each other really well, and this one was awesome. So there was a lot of really interesting bits in this. Number one is that we really got to see how much Iron Fist, Danny Rand, and the actor who play him and the people who write him have really grown. Everything seems more in command. The writers and directors seem to have a clearer idea of what he is. The actor, I was reading an interview today, apparently he went straight from like the last episode of Iron Fist to the first episode of Defenders. I think he said he had like 2 weeks in between. I don't know how he looks so much older and more fit and all that other stuff, but he looks great, and he's really, you would think, now actually luckily he started filming the Defenders before he got the fairly harsh backlash that Iron Fist, in my opinion, unfairly garnered. I think there was a lot of virtue signaling with Iron Fist, a lot of we've got to hate this because of the not casting the Asian as, because you got to cast Asians as martial artists anyway. But huge improvement. So Danny is the one, he's the youngest, he's like the scrapper. He's the one who's very, very excited about having a superhero team. Jessica, she's too cool for school. Luke is just like, hey, I'm just here for Harlem. I'm trying to stay focused. And Matt Murdock, the man without fear, just seems straight up afraid of doing it. I loved season 2 of Daredevil, but I seem to have brain dumped a lot of that, or they're just making up some new stuff, because he's very much into never wanting to be a superhero, that the cost is too high, that the people you like end up getting hurt. I don't know, Foggy's okay, Karen's okay, Elektra's dead, but she came back. Her heart isn't beating, apparently. So we got some more information on what exactly she is. It looks like Alexandra is... I just assumed she was an immortal that was always in the same body, but now I'm thinking that she switches bodies, and she might be queuing up Elektra to be like her next replacement body. Alexandra is Sigourney Weaver, and she's the main villain of this season. So it takes, like I said, it takes place mostly in this Chinese restaurant. One thing that I freaking love is they all bum rush in there, obviously scared. It's like they're being chased by a shark or a bear in the woods. They get in there and they're just like, turn all the lights off, turn off everything. And there's a great part where Matt Murdock is like, he can smell. He's like, I smell neon. And Luke Cage is like, how do you smell neon? But there's actually there's just a lot of great parts in it. So Daredevil's still wearing a scarf from Jessica Jones for about 5 minutes, and people keep telling him to take the scarf off. Now here's what's great. If this was the Marvel movies, you know, the Avengers, all those, him having the scarf on would have been played 100% for laughs. Instead, it becomes one of these weird deals where it almost looks like he's gonna fight them or cry if they take it off. He's very much into, I did not want to do this. You know how people in movies are always like, I didn't want to do this, but you can tell they're kind of excited. He is very much not excited about this. He's like, I joined up because I had to. I was just in the place. I mean, my costume was a freaking scarf over my head. I look stupid. And he's like, I just want to leave. And they're like, hey, you know who we are. We need to know who you are. And he's about to fight Luke Cage. He literally looks like he's about to start crying. It's really interesting to see heroes being afraid. It doesn't make them less heroes. It doesn't make them less brave. It just actually kind of makes them more heroic and more brave, that they're essentially fighting someone that's a human shark, which is what Elektra is. She has all of her abilities that she had before with basically no conscience. She's just an apex predator. So they're trying to figure out what to do, and there's some comedy. Basically Danny Rand, he goes back there, he uses his white privilege to basically buy themselves a hideout. He has to pay the guys rent for 6 months and order 4 of everything, which is kind of funny. But they're all taking it very seriously. It's almost borderline like a horror, movie where the monsters out in the wood, and they're in the cabin, and they don't know how long till the monster's going to find them. So we get to see a little bit more of monsters out in the wood, and they're in the cabin, and they don't know how long till the monster's going to find them. So we get to see a little bit more of Elektra fighting, and we get to find out what the hand actually is. I was really excited about that part, finding out what the hand is. So, I mean, they just laid it straight out what it is. It's Alexandra. It's Bakuto from Iron Fist #1. It's a couple other people. I don't know. I'm driving. I can't remember. But it's this black guy called White Hat who's in this one. It's did they name all 5 of them? This other guy, Noragami or something like that. There's a really cool, creepy scene where he's disemboweling a bear that he had been hunting, apparently barehanded, and he pulls something out. I couldn't tell what it was, if it was the liver. It was really big. It looked like a purse, actually, or like a fanny pack. But I was like, it doesn't look like a heart. That's what I thought he was going to pull out. I thought he was going to pull it out and eat it. But there's this, Madame Gao, she's the other one in the hand. So there were the 5 fingers of the hand, and it's tied in directly to Kunlun, which I freaking love. There's also there's all these great moments in there. There's this thing where Stick is if you didn't guess, all these things spoilers, but Stick is very much up. You know how he's always like throwing shade at Matt Murdock, but he actually really respects Danny Rand. He's like, this is the immortal Iron Fist, and he actually bows to him. I'm like, okay. But there's this great part later where Alexandra is basically saying like, hey, I just need you to come with me. It's really kind of weird. It's like she's trying to get him inside her van. Hey, kid, free ice cream, but you got to close your eyes. And then Stick, who's shown a lot of respect and deference to Danny Rand, he says flat out, he's like, if you go with her, I'm going to take you off the chessboard right now. So I was just like, man, this rendition of Stick, they did him great in both seasons of Daredevil. I would almost say he's even done better here. And Alexandra, I actually heard a lot of people saying that she kind of was like lame. She's been very formidable. She even did a couple of karate moves on kind of like proto-Elektra when she was reborn and kind of effectively relearning how to walk and stuff like that. But everyone's everyone except for one. The cool thing is about this hand is they kind of say, the 5 fingers, and it kind of implies that they're all equal. But we've shown that Madame Gao is deferential and apparently afraid of Alexandra, and Alexandra seemed to be deferential to this guy Noragami. So I think technically Noragami, and I'm pretty sure Bakuto got killed in Iron Fist season 1. I don't know. I brain dump. I watch a lot of these things while I'm working out. So like I kind of get the gist of them, then I forget a lot of the key plot points. I do it different with like Arrow. Like Arrow, I will sit there and watch every single sentence, and if I miss one sentence, I'll rewind it. Yeah, and then they even explain that this guy White Hat, he can actually slow your heart down if you get too close to him, which is a pretty cool little superpower. So yeah, this episode was excellent. It was the best one out of 4. One of the things I'm freaking loving is they finally right-sized an episode or a season of the Netflix Marvel shows. I don't feel like they're dragging it out or slowing it down just to make it to what, 12 or 13 episodes. It has been a brisk pace, and I feel like we are already getting close to a culmination. So in that regard, I'm not going to stretch out this video. You know, I got to the magic shekel point of 10 minutes, and I'm just going to go inside right now. But thanks for watching. Subscribe. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. That way you'll know as soon as the videos go up. Check out my Patreon. I'm about to start lettering the final Project Re-Reverse story I'm going to do. And thanks for watching. I got a bunch of new comics reviews up tomorrow. Bye.
But can you easily name just a few contributions Black people have made to our country? Probably not.
It's that time of year again. It is officially February, the shortest month of the year, and I can think of no better time than now to honor Black history. Now I'm sure you white devils, you pale-faced demons that are listening, are used to the lies and the propaganda that is spread on this most sacred and holy of months. But it is my duty, it is the job I have set forward for myself to expose you to the real history of the superior Black race. You need to learn the truth, and I'm here to help facilitate that. We're not going to cover the whitewashing of history, the Civil Rights Movement, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King Jr. Get that white propaganda out of here. We're going to be dealing with the truth, the real history of the world, the history that has been kept locked away and hidden from you for far too long. You need to know, and I need to get the word out there. But before we get going, I need to unburden myself. The guilt is killing me. I can't live with the lies and the deception anymore. This image was not drawn by my girlfriend Jade. It's a lie. It's part of my white supremacy to cover up the truth. It has been painted over, much like world history. This image was originally drawn by a strong Nigerian artist named Ubangu Atani. And I need you to see the truth because I can't live with it anymore. You know what they say, the first step is always the hardest. Physician, heal thyself. So let me heal myself now by showing you the truth. Much better. So let's start our journey of discovery with one of the bigger cover-ups over the last few millennia. I'm talking about Jews. Now, most people think they know what a Jew is. They would be wrong. That is not a Jewish person. That is an imposter. That is somebody who is trying to actively deceive you. The real Jews are the Black Israelites.
Black people are born Jews.
I'm Jewish.
No, you're not. Italo Yehudi.
He loved Jacob. Who's Jacob? The so-called legal Latinos and Native Americans and the similar Indians.
That is some compelling evidence. You heard him. Native Americans, Latinos, and blacks are the real Jews, not those imposters in Israel. Now, the Black Israelites are out there preaching their message of tolerance every single day.
Death to all you crackers, man.
That's right.
Fucking punks, man.
That's right. You want to bash your fucking head in, man. That's right.
And all you so-called white people, you punk faggots, you going into slavery, all right?
That's right.
We're going to destroy you, man. By the way, all you so-called white women, you're going to get brutally raped out here.
That's right.
Let you put to death.
That's right.
And all you so-called Asians, you're going into slavery, all right?
That's right.
You're going into slavery, all right, where you belong.
Now, some of you white devils might be having some difficulty understanding this. You might be asking yourselves, where do I fit in? Where is my history in comparison to the true Israelites, the Native Americans, Latinos, and blacks? Well, I'm going to let Mike Tyson explain it for you.
Call him Neanderthal.
Yep.
You Neanderthal? Because wait, man, that's all he is. You a caveman, man.
That's right.
You a caveman that stole everybody's history, stole everybody's the way of living, and then combined it all together and said it was yours.
And if that wasn't clear enough, I'll let his compatriot expand on it a little bit more.
What says in the scriptures, God do hate.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's not the only thing he hates. He hates many things in the scriptures, man.
Yeah.
He hates Esau. Who's the Esau? He's the progenitor of the so-called white race, man.
Well, there you have it, White Devil. Now we know the true history. That the Jews are really black people. You thought you could pull the wool over their eyes, but they're not having it. All you Neanderthals and cave dwellers are on fucking notice. The real history's getting out. All that fake bullshit in every history book and recorded language. All the passed down tradition. It's all a smokescreen. We know who the real Jews are, and they're not the people inhabiting Israel. Those are the imposters. And how shameful that you would try to take their place and their accomplishments. And the black Israelites are more than willing to spread that message of truth to anybody that would try to impersonate them.
6 million who the Holocaust.
Are you saying the Holocaust is a joke?
It's a joke.
That's right. That's right.
Don't you dare. Don't you
The
dare.
Holocaust is a damn joke. The Holocaust is a joke. Hitler, yeah, cry, white boy. Heil Hitler. You ain't doing nothing. We been through it. You ain't been through a damn thing. Black people have been through it.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
But the deception, it doesn't just end there. Not only were black people the original Jews, they were also the original Egyptians. Now, I could bore you with highly academic sources going over very persuasive arguments as to how black people were actually the original Egyptians. We could sit here all day and talk about how dark those mummies be and shit, yo, and go over famous pharaohs like Charcoal Hotep. But I think I've got better evidence, more persuasive evidence for you.
I've heard them say that we wasn't even there. Baby, let me make it clear. We were the ones. If you pay attention to what I'm about to show, there's no doubt that you will know we were the ones. And I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that my name will show you who Egypt was a black man, Kentucky was a black man.
How can you deny that? Just let the beat fill your soul. Can't you feel it? Can't you feel ancient Egypt screaming out at you and saying, hey yo, what's up? You want some fuck, baby? I think I can. I can feel it deep in my bones. Now sure, you could be one of those naysayers and bring up the point of, well wait a minute, if black people were the original Jews and black people were the original Egyptians, does that mean they enslaved themselves? When God said, let my people go, was he saying that to his people? Because apparently that would have to be the case. Something's going on there, but I'm sure it's just my white devil brain trying to break down reality and put up the illusion that we had a hand in crafting the world. Clearly we didn't. Clearly white people have done nothing, and black people are responsible for pretty much everything. And you're going to see that, because that's what this video is about. Since we're already on the subject of stolen accomplishments and the ancient Egyptians, I'd like to bring up a fact that a lot of white people want to try to deny. It's a truth that they've tried to sweep under the rug of history. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the myth that white people invented rocketry, that white people took us into outer space first. That is an outright fabrication. It is not true at all. The truth is, the ancient Egyptians took us into space first. And we've already established the ancient Egyptians were really black people from Africa. That's right, I'm talking about aeronautical niggas. Look at those hieroglyphs. How can you deny the truth that is before your eyes? That is a UFO designed, built, and flown from Africa. Now, you may not believe me, but there is photographic evidence. If you go to the South African Historical Society archive, you can find this picture. It is Chief Head Scientist Umbana Nwana. He is the man that developed the Egyptian rocketry system. He is the man that brought Africans into outer space before anybody else in the world ever was there. Now, it's important that you acknowledge this accomplishment, because I know a lot of people seem to think, and it's crazy, that Europeans and then Americans developed the space program. That's not true. After all, if you let that lie stand, the next thing you'll be telling me is the Aztecs weren't actually black people either.
The Aztecs were original black Native Americans who lived in central Mexico. Native Indian Americans have been very jealous of the Aztecs and other blacks. Although today many Mexicans like to claim that blacks are trying to steal their history, it's the other way around. The Indian Americans are trying to steal the history of the blacks, such as the Aztecs.
This has to end. White people, you need to stop trying to take credit for the accomplishments of proud black civilizations, whether it's the Jews, the Egyptians, or the Aztecs. Now, I'm not certain what exactly compels you to do this. Maybe it's an inferiority complex. Maybe you've not accomplished anything on your own, and you want to take credit from other people that have. Well, that's just sad. That is really fucking sad, white people, that you would do that, white people. Really fucking sad. Now, you may be saying to yourself, wait a minute, I've been to school, I had to read a history book. How is it that I'm not aware of these things? Well, that's because of the historical revisionism that's taken place ever since the Renaissance.
Right here, you see the Archangel Michael in the middle, Jesus Christ, right next to him is Gabriel. What color are they painted? They painted very dark. But in many books after 1453, they painted white. Why? You had famous iconoclasts, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, Three Ninja Turtles. They were hired to paint over these images. When I went to Rome and the Vatican, and y'all saw the Sistine Chapel, he was hired to paint biblical characters. Why? So that when a lot of people begin to read the history of the Israelites and Jews, they would think that they were Caucasian. Listen to what the Greeks did. Because iconoclasm, breaking images, that's nothing new. The Greeks took the records of the Israelites and they painted over them as white men.
Those goddamn Europeans, they just don't ever stop. They constantly take credit where credit's not due. Not only do white people try to take credit for what black people do, they try to impersonate them by painting over their historical portraits. Where does it end? How many historical figures were actually black?
But I just want to show you something that's very interesting in this book, that the original rulers of England and Britain were black.
That's King George of England, the light-skinned black man.
You clearly see the Vikings as black men.
Do you see that with your glasses? These are black men. Jesus is a black man. They know that in his hometown.
Beethoven.
Black.
Mozart.
Black.
Henry VIII.
Black.
William Shakespeare.
Undoubtedly black.
My God, does it ever end? You heard the list of famous black men throughout history. Mozart, Beethoven, King George, Henry VIII, the Vikings. You know, the people that they try to claim are Scandinavian? Not at all. The Vikings were black men. Even William Shakespeare was a black man, which is slightly awkward considering Amelia Bassano is the lady who wrote all of Shakespeare's plays because she was black and they would not publish her work. She died in poverty because she never received a dime for her work. Shakespeare was illiterate and could barely write his own name. I think we've got another one of those Egyptian and Jew situations. If William Shakespeare was black and they published his work, why wouldn't they publish Amelia Bassano's work because she was black? God damn it, this must be another example of white privilege. Look at me trying to analyze history with facts. That is stupid. We don't need facts, we need the truth. And the truth here is, William Shakespeare was a black man who had major success in England writing plays, and at the same time he was also a white man who used the work of a black woman because he was illiterate and couldn't sign his own name. Of course, it's not just the white devil that's doing this, it's the yellow devil as well. Caption this. Japanese couple. The woman on the picture is straight up black woman. For samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. Japanese proverb. Know thyself. For a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. Ancient Japanese saying. 35,000 BC, a group of these African Chinese, later known to us as the Jomon, took this route and entered Japan. They became the first humans to inhabit the Japanese Isles. Chinese people have the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert features. Even Buddha's involved in this. The original Buddha rocking the hairstyle we call today Bantu knots. Know your hair story. Our people even migrated to Asia. Buddha was not the fat white Asian statues you see today. I hope that you are just drinking this in, because not only have white people stolen all of black people's accomplishments and impersonated them and rewritten history books and redone paintings, all of Japanese and Chinese history is a lie, because Japanese and Chinese people are actually black as well. Everybody is black. South American and Central Americans, they're black. Europeans, black too. Asians, black as well. There is not a single place on Earth that has not covered up the fact that black people are responsible for every single human achievement that has ever happened in human history. Perhaps, though, you need a little bit more convincing. Well, it is Black History Month here in America, so let's talk about American history. Let's talk about the first president of the United States. Now, I know a lot of you, if I asked you who was the first president, are going to say George Washington, but that is a lie. That is pure white propaganda. No, the first president of the United States was a black man. more. George Washington was not the first president of the United States. He was the 9th. The real first president of the United States was John Hanson, who understood the importance of war and was concerned. He served as president from 1781 to 1782 AD. In fact, he sent 800 pounds of sterling silver by his brother Samuel Hanson to George Washington to provide for the troops with shoes. They tried so hard to cover the true Moorish identity of John Hanson because of his great accomplishments as a leader. Since Euro-Americans have their roots in England, it must be very hard to accept the fact that the true father and founder of their country was in fact a black man. You can pick your jaw up from the floor there, white people. I just dropped a truth bomb on your ass. I've napalmed you with reality. Now I know it must be difficult to accept this new reality, this great truth that's been hidden from you. I'm sure for the longest time you thought the first president of the United States was actually George Washington. You are fucking retarded. It was in fact a black man, and they've been covering that up for far too long. We need to get the word out. Now I'm sure you white supremacist naysayers out there are going to bring up things like, well, wait a minute. The oldest surviving heliographic engraving is from 1825, and the earliest photo we have is actually from 1826. So how could you possibly have a photograph of the first president of the United States when he served from 1781 to 1782? Hell, in your desperate struggle to hold on to your white lies, you might even bring up the fact that John Hanson died in 1783, making it physically impossible to have his photograph taken when photography actually did become realistically feasible. Well, that's just more racist bullshit. I'm sure you're going to vote for Trump. Those facts, quote unquote, aren't really true. They're up on Wikipedia. We might as well rename it Whitepedia because that's what it's full of. White bullshit. You see, photography was invented well before the 1800s. Back in 5200 BCE, that's before Common Era, which should really be retitled BWL, before White Lies. A tribesman by the name of Untangu Kakano invented photography. In the oldest known surviving photograph in world history, this is Untango getting a self-portrait done. Look at the genius before you. That is the father of modern photography, and it perfectly explains how they would have got a picture of the first black president, John Hanson. Now, if you've made it this far, and your eyes have been opened, I have one final piece of truth for you. It's the big one. We've talked about how every group on Earth is really black people, and every accomplishment that's ever been conceived has been done by black people. But what about the white people? Those goddamn interfering cave-dwelling Neanderthals. Where do they come from? Well, it's time to share that story with you. Here is the truth behind where white people come from. It starts thousands of years ago with a brilliant scientist named Yakub. This happens to be an artist illustration of what Yakub might have looked like. No, that's not upside-down balls with hair on it. That is what Yakub actually looks like. He is the progenitor. He is the source. He is where white people come from, and I'm going to share his story with you.
It took 600 years to breed Yakub's albinoid tribe, and every imagination of their heart and all of their actions were wicked continuously. The evilness of the albinoids not only affected themselves, but also affected the other peoples of the world. Yakub's albinoids returned to the city where they were exiled from. Once back in the city, it took only 6 months for Yakub's albinoids to cause chaos and war amongst the Ebenoid people. The king of the Ebenoid people realized that it was Yakub's albinoids who were causing all the trouble, and the king made a decree to drive Yakub's evil albinoids from amongst them. The king rounded up all of Yakub's albinoids and stripped them of their clothing, and put an apron on them to hide their nakedness, and sent his army with them across the desert to cross the burning sands into the place which is modern-day Europe.
That's right. White people are a science experiment gone wrong. They wreaked havoc across the world until they were finally exiled to Europe and held prisoner in caves. But the Neanderthals couldn't just leave well enough alone. They finally broke out. But when they broke out, boy howdy, was it a dark time in the world.
Free from the caves, Yakub's albinoids went on a rampage throughout the earth, conquering and subjecting the Ebenoid people, pitting one against the other using the idea of divide and conquer. And so, Yakub's albinoids ruled the earth for 6,000 years, spreading their devilishment, evil, pain, suffering, and oppression to the Ebenoid people of the earth as designed by the big head scientist Yakub.
And this is the oppression the world has been living under for far too long. But don't fret, because salvation is just around the corner.
After the 6,000-year rule of Yakub's people, the Ebenoid people would give birth to one whose wisdom, knowledge and power would be infinite. Yeah! One whom the world would recognize as being the greatest and mightiest since the creation of the universe, and that Yakub's old warring wicked world would be removed and destroyed, and the Ebenoid nation would be restored into power to rule forever and to establish a world of peace and righteousness.
Rejoice. Our Savior is among us, and while we wait for that final victory, that final salvation, take comfort in knowing that you wasn't just kings, you was everybody.
Okay!
It is 2016, people. Come on now. Woe be unto the CEO that thinks they can donate to charity in this day and age. Now, a long time ago, before the internet and the SJWs that have come to infest it, there was a golden era, a magical period in time where donating to charity was a positive thing. I know that's crazy, but it was a virtue. It was something we taught children to try to strive to do, to give back to society, to uplift individuals that had a bad situation in their life or that were dealing with a trauma, and to help them back up, to give them a hand, to get them on their feet again. It was a good, a noble thing to do. But those days are dead. Now you've got to check ahead of time, because the charity you might want to donate to might not be politically correct enough for you to avoid the high crime of wrongthink. And as we all know, wrongthink is a capital offense in this day and age. Not capital as in capital punishment. They're not going to kill you. They're going to take away your capital by getting your ass fired for doing something they disagree with. And that is exactly what's happened to the CEO of Marvel. Now, he had the unmitigated gall. You know what? You're going to want to sit down for this because it's really hard to take. He actually gave $1 million, are you ready for this, to a veterans charity. Holy shit, what is he thinking? Doesn't he know that veterans use guns? They fight in wars and they kill people. That's not the kind of society I want to live in. Veterans should be forced to be homeless. They should have to crawl through the gutters on their stomach. Now, if that sounds absurd to you, congratulations, you still have a shred of your fucking sanity left. The rest of the internet, not so much. Now, the regular suspects, and by regular suspects, I mean the typical shit heap journalism websites that exist out there, put out the articles that you would imagine them to put out when this man gave $1 million of his own money on his own time to a veterans charity fundraising event Donald Trump held a few days ago. And of course, right on the heel of those articles, you get the typical response you would imagine. In fact, I'm going to share some of them with you because it's so absurd you need to really hear this to believe it. Support for Donald Trump needs to be treated as support for white supremacy because it is unacceptable. You wonder why Marvel is so bad with representation? Their CEO donated $1 million to Trump. End of story. Resign. You should not give a cent to anything Marvel until their racist, Trump-supporting CEO steps down. Summary. Marvel's CEO donated a massive amount to Donald Trump, heavily indicating racism. Stepping down is the only acceptable move. As a Mexican-American whose parents immigrated to the U.S. from Mexico, I am very hurt to see Marvel CEO donate $1 million to Trump. That donation is a huge fuck you to me and other Marvel fans who are targeted by the hate Donald Trump represents and perpetuates. The CEO of Marvel just gave Trump $1 million. Excuse me while I go burn everything I own of theirs. Anytime Marvel cheapens women or marginalized minority voices, it shores up a structure that leads from employees to Perlmutter to Trump. Welcome to the social justice era, where donating your own money on your own time to a charity event will cause people to burn the products the company you work at sells and demand that you be fired for it. Now, I've talked in the past about how social justice warriors will infiltrate different groups, how they will subvert the fan base and bring about changes nobody actually wants, only to fit their personal political agenda. They do it to video games, to movies, to music, to television shows, to comic books, to board games, anything you can think of. It is currently happening right now because that is what they do. But I want to talk about a specific tool that they implement to help this be a success. Because simply taking over a fan base is only a portion of how they bring about the changes they want to see. And the current events happening with the Marvel CEO really help to highlight their methodology. It's what I like to call replacement theory, and it works like this. Social justice warriors will find a group, a demographic, a fan base, and they will infiltrate it. They will pretend to be a part of it. And as their numbers expand, they will start to make demands for small changes. They'll say, we need a little bit more diversity. This language needs to be changed because it's a little bit sexist. Don't get angry at me. I'm not saying go overboard. Just a little change here, a little change there. Maybe somebody said something at the company they don't like, so they ask for an apology. The company thinks this is the fan base talking to them, and so they acquiesce. They make these little changes. They offer these little apologies, thinking they're appeasing the people that actually buy their products when SJWs don't actually buy the products they complain about. They simply want to institute changes based on their political agenda. Once they have a sufficient amount of people within the fan base, now it's time to really change things up. And this is where the replacement theory portion comes in. They wait for an event to happen at a higher level in the company. In this case, this would be the donation to a veterans charity fund. Now, they see this person in the position of CEO. They dislike this person because they don't adhere to the viewpoints of the SJW. So they wait for the hit piece to come from the press, which it has. Salon and the others have issued this talking about how this is clearly indicative of a sexist, racist, horrible person. How dare he support Trump? How dare he give money to a veterans charity fund? The moment they have that, they begin to bombard the person on social media, demanding that they be fired, demanding that they resign. And it is for the sole purpose of replacing them. See, you can bitch from the fan base as much as you want, and you can get small changes, and you can get those apologies. But if you really want to fuck a company up, if you really want to screw with a genre of entertainment, you need to replace the people at the top. Now, we're watching that, or an attempt at that, take place right now. They will apply this pressure and make it seem like it's coming from the fan base, because remember, they've already infiltrated. They're already a member of it. So when the company looks at this and they say, oh my god, look at all the fans out there, look at all the negative press, we need to get rid of you, because clearly the people purchasing our products are demanding it. We saw this happen with the CEO from Mozilla. He gave money, he donated funds to a California Proposition 8 campaign. Again, his own money on his own time, but it was the perfect opportunity to get rid of him. And once they get rid of these individuals, they replace them with somebody that's more sympathetic to how they think, further ruining the thing that they are infiltrating. Now, you can talk to people in tech, and you can ask them what's going on with it right now, and it's pretty clear. There's a war going on in tech right now with the exact thing that's happening in comics taking place over there. They're trying to replace the people that are at the head position of a company or a group with somebody more like-minded that they are, so they can implement the changes they want to see. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is a paragraph from the Vox article talking about the donation the CEO made. The donation has upset people, some of whom may not be completely familiar with Putmeyer's reputation. Considering how progressive and diverse Marvel Comics have become, why would the company's figurehead donate such a large amount of money, or any money really, to someone who has built his campaign on xenophobia, Islamophobia, and whose supporters resort to sexism? This move doesn't seem to align with the fact that one of Marvel's most popular comics is about a Pakistani American Muslim teenage girl named Miss Marvel. And this is what I'm talking about. You have comic book fans that actually like comic books, but then you have this group of individuals that doesn't really give a shit. They're not buying the comics, they're not reading the comics. They just want changes made for the sake of change. They want more diversity, more tolerance. Fuck the storyline. Who gives a shit about the character? I just need you to fill off a quota box. You need to tick those marks until it is a Pakistani American Muslim teenage girl named Miss Marvel. So you have this group of individuals that take over the fan base and get these changes made, which leads to what they describe as progressive and diverse. And now they look at the CEO and they say, how dare he donate money to something that doesn't align with this new progressive and diverse Marvel by a subversive group of people that aren't really even comic book fans. And they want him gone. And once he's gone, they're going to try to get somebody that aligns with their viewpoint, which will further ruin the company and make their products even more shit, until eventually you're left with nobody buying comics anymore because there's nothing worth reading. You're going to reach a point where comic books really revolve around the plotline of a transsexual disabled midget who is fighting for her gay lover's right to take a shit in a unigendered bathroom on a college campus. And I don't know about you, but that's not really fucking as interesting as Thor hitting something with a fucking hammer. Some people, they just never learn. I've said time and time again that under absolutely no circumstances should you ever apologize to an SJW. It will not work out in your favor. And we've seen countless real-world examples of this play themselves out now over the last few years to help highlight that very point. It does not matter how genuine the apology is. It does not matter how actually remorseful you may be, they will continue to be offended. But like a shark smelling blood in the water, once they see that little bit of weakness, once they see you subjugate and sublimate yourself, they're going to go in for the kill. They are going to latch on with their fucking teeth, and they're going to yank and rip until they pull a limb off, because that is the nature of the beast. Snowflakes can never be satisfied, and trying to do so is folly. You will only open yourself up for even more trouble than you may have been in before. And what do you know? The perfect example of this just recently happened. It happened in the last few days, and I wanted to show it to you. I wanted to share it with the people watching so they can get a really good idea of why you should never try to appease these sorts of people. Now, a few days ago, a video was uploaded, and I'll have a link to it in the description if you want to go check it out. It's a fairly short video, about 3.5 minutes long, entitled One of the Many Faces of Racism in America. And the video centers around a protest that's going on, and it gets interrupted by an individual who comes in and he says very hurtful, mean things. He says the no, naughty, racist words that nobody wants to hear in America anymore. Now, the video itself is fairly benign. There's not a lot to it. He comes in, he says some things, and then he leaves. There's no violence, there's no physical fighting, no pushing and shoving. It's pretty clear cut. He says some stuff they don't like, and that's the end of it. That really is what the video is. But the internet, being what it was, once it saw the video, decided we're going to find out who he is, what his name is, where he lives, where he works, and you can imagine what they did with that information. That's right, they tracked down the company he works for. Now, the apology I'm talking about isn't from the man himself. As far as I know, he hasn't apologized. It's from the company that he works for. Today, we were disgusted to learn that one of MMC's former employees used racial slurs.
This chimp right here.
And made racially charged comments. During a peaceful protest in Mars, Pennsylvania, outside of work hours and at a location with which we have no affiliation. We are sorry that this incident occurred. Whether at work or not, we do not condone hate speech.
Fucking nigger right here with a fucking mop on his head.
Ever. Inclusion and diversity are among MMC's core values. We believe in equality for everyone, regardless of race, age, gender identity, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. MMC has terminated his employee and will never do business with him again in the future. Well, huzzah. The offended people of the internet should be happy. I mean, after all, they found out who this man was, they found out where he worked, and they alerted the company. And within hours, and I do mean within hours, the company not only fired him, but put up this public statement saying he does not reflect our core value. So that should be the end of the story, right? I mean, everybody should be satisfied. They got exactly what they wanted. This company has done exactly what the people who were upset by that video could have wanted. Of course not. This is where the snowflake mentality really kicks into high gear, because you're going to see in the reaction to this post exactly what I'm talking about when I say you should never apologize to these people. Now, the company didn't do anything wrong. The company didn't go out and make these statements. The company didn't offend people on the internet. This is just a guy that works for them. So let's see what the reaction they got was. I'm sure it's completely fucking reasonable. Lori Miller writes, although I am glad that this man was dismissed and was stunned by the content of the video, I have to question, with the boldness and ignorance so readily spewed upon innocent protesters, was there really no previous indicators of racism? And if there were, would coworkers please be fearless and come forth and reveal some practices of management that turned a deaf ear? This is 2016, and the content I heard is indicative of violence of a previous era. Come on, it is the current year. Clearly, there has to be more to this story. I mean, obviously, this man said something off of work hours and at a location not associated with work, but for some reason, the workplace must know more than they're letting on. Let's see if Lori Miller can dig to the bottom of that. Let's see what our little detective can find. She continues, I would like to know exactly what MMC land management policy entailed as far as diversity, considering this debacle that has occurred. If this individual can repeatedly make ape-like sounds towards protesters, it makes me think that perhaps he never had an opportunity to work alongside an individual of color or a disability. You hear that, MMC? You obviously don't have a diverse enough workforce to have allowed such a racist to exist. And the only cure for this is to implement a quota. We need more black people in MMC land management. And apparently we need more disabled people too. Because according to Lori Miller, people of color and the disabled are pretty much the same. Of course, Lori wasn't alone. There were quite a few people that had some interesting things to share. Like Mary Lou Boyle, for example. This man should be investigated by the authorities for mental illness. Surely, this has to be a claim for his behavior to save face and gain decent employment in the future. With that being said, all his guns and right to carry should be suspended. The last thing we need is someone recently fired for their beliefs who also has a cache of hunting weapons at his disposal. As far as I'm concerned, he needs to at minimum have his right to carry and own question. I think if you say the word nigger, you shouldn't be allowed to hunt anymore. There's a connection between those two things. Well, what a remarkably reasonable reaction, Mary Lou. Oh, you have more to say. His actions on video would make me question his frame of mind. If you worked at his former company, would you want to have him having guns?
even in this place, NCR's shadow falls? Or is it just you, courier, without the bear's corpse to weigh you down? Judging by your shadow, maybe you can't let your machine go. Doesn't matter now. Either way, the Divide Giants are awakening. The missiles here on their way home. There is no... No. Now there is purpose. I believe you when you say you were careless. The Divide, the chip, the machine you brought here. Many messages can be taken from that, intended or not. What I do now is an act of conviction. Blame you? No. Learned from you. Both the weapon to kill a nation and the strength to do it. You showed me a road, a way to carry my message. You've already answered for what you've done. Now the flag you follow will answer for it. No, not the Mojave. The West. All that's been built since America died. Same symbols as before the war. You walked the West, didn't stay. You know the reason. The bear grows without structure, follows a symbol without knowing its history. And knowing that you believe in a bear's sickness and have given it strength, and that gives more reason to lay waste to your homeland. After this, only one flag will remain over the Mojave. Let that one fly, or destroy itself. No need to destroy the bear. Just cut its throat. You taught me that at the Divide. Only need to cut off the supply line, the road, to watch something greater die. I'll turn the long 15 into miles of fire. Cut off the Mojave. NCR will fall back, lose Hoover Dam, and leave their throats exposed to the Legion. Your actions have carried strength. If you speak for the two-headed bear, I'll hear your words, even if I will be the only one to hear them. If you believe it should not die this day. History has proven this. Our history. And you think that you have this strength, enough for all of NCR. The West is not the Divide, and nothing you can do can prevent the missile's launch. Convincing me. So, you resort to trickery. You were hoping that you could deceive. Your nation will burn. I'll finish history's work. Let's end this courier.
Experiment log 3692.
Even in this place, judging. And you think that you have this strength? The West is not the divide. It may be that as much destruction has been written in the earth here, you may build something else. You have spoken truly. There is a shadow of a nation behind you, the hope of a people, yet it may not matter. Our enemies gather outside, shadows of the bear and a bull. It was always my intention, in case I could not kill you, the marked men would flood this place, cut off your escape. If we cannot prevent what comes, then let us make our stand here. Two couriers together at the divide. If we're done here, let's leave the divide behind. If we get separated, I'll meet you above Hopeville, near the canyon wreckage.
Experiment log 3692. Initial tests of the override system are promising. Against unsecured or lightly encrypted targets, the iBots have a 98% success rate. More heavily protected systems are still problematic. Military-grade encryption presents a very real possibility of critical overload of... We've stopped tests before any robots were destroyed. But if we don't address the problem, our iBots will fry themselves hacking military networks.
Hopeville burned, lightless in the night, invisible fires of radiation scorching it from within and without. It is said a man still walked its streets with a tattered jacket, an old world flag etched on the back. He remained there, perhaps as punishment for the scars he left on the wastes, or a reminder of a history he could not forget. For Ulysses, his journey was over. The courier had been the end of his road. As for the courier, he turned his back on his home for the second time and made his way back, navigating the treachery of the divide. Tunnelers and the marked men avoided the lone figure, as if recognizing the courier's right to passage, or out of fear. The courier walked until he stood again upon the edge of the divide, the last road he would walk before the second battle for Hoover Dam. There, beside his feet, was a final package from one courier to another. A footlocker bearing a gift and a message. But that message, it is something for couriers to carry. and for them alone. The lights flickered across the divide, reminders that the old world histories persist and find meaning in the present. It said, war never changes. Men do, through the roads they walk, and this road has reached its end. Last tape, last message. In case you best me. If you're hearing this, you have, through blood or word. This message and all that lies with it. It is for you, courier. If you want to know the why of things. This world, I've walked a good part of it. I stopped only because of you. What you did gave me pause. Long ago, I crossed the Colorado, the first among the Legion to see Hoover Dam in all its glory. An old world wall, yet bridging two sides. And beyond it, a symbol of a two-headed bear. An idea great enough to challenge Caesar himself. Might kill him taking it, whether he won or lost. The bull needs to fight, needs the challenge. Without it, it falters, dies in the dust. There, in you and me, leave the thought behind the message to you. My message is this: the destruction that has been wrought at the divide, or elsewhere, if you couldn't stop me, it can happen again. It will keep happening. If war doesn't change, men must change, and so must their symbols. Even if it is nothing at all, know what you follow, courier. Just as I followed you to the end. Whatever your symbol, carry it on your back and wear it proudly when you stand at Hoover Dam.